The void sector stretched before Peter's ship like a graveyard of forgotten dreams. Ancient hull fragments and twisted metal spires floated silently, remnants of civilizations long extinct. His scanners picked up the usual debris: titanium shards, frozen fuel cells, and fragments of navigation arrays, all valuable to the right buyers. But Peter wasn't hunting ordinary salvage today. A peculiar emergency beacon had appeared on his communication system, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded him of stellar collapse. A rapid series of flashes, followed by an eerie silence, then repeating. The signal emanated from a shattered pyramid-shaped vessel, unlike anything in his database. Protocol dictated he should report the anomaly to Central Navigation Command and avoid contact. Unregistered vessels often harbored illegal tech, hostile defense systems, or worse. But something about this signal pulled at him, an inexplicable intuition that overrode his usual caution. "Override standard protocol," Peter muttered to his ship's AI. "Adjust course to intercept signal source. Warning: action violates Maritime Code Section 17.3. The AI responded tonelessly. "Unidentified vessels must be reported to—" "Override confirmed," Peter interrupted, his hands already adjusting the navigation controls. The salvage ship's engines hummed as it changed direction, pushing deeper into the heart of the void sector. Solitude suited Peter. 5 years of salvage work had taught him that attachments only complicated survival. The galaxy's Central Coordination Authority imposed too many rules, too many taxes, and too many questions. Out here, drifting among the ruins of ancient star travelers, he answered only to himself. His vessel, little more than an enhanced cargo hauler with reinforced shields and modified tractor beams, wasn't built for combat or speed. But it was perfect for what he needed: independence. The cramped living quarters, stocked with bare necessities and a small collection of physical books, had become his only home. As he approached the derelict pyramid ship, Peter's scanners struggled to penetrate its unusual hull composition. The vessel appeared constructed from some crystalline metallic hybrid material that scattered sensor beams. Only the faintest biological signature registered, weak, but definitely alive. "Deploy docking clamps," he ordered. The mechanical arms extended from his ship, latching onto the alien vessel with a dull thud that reverberated through his hull. Peter donned his environment suit, checking the oxygen levels and radiation shields. The atmosphere scanner indicated breathable air inside the derelict, but at dangerously low pressure. He grabbed his emergency kit, a plasma cutter, and his sidearm before heading to the airlock. The magnetic boots of his suit connected with the alien ship's exterior as he crossed the short distance between vessels. Up close, the pyramid's surface revealed intricate geometric patterns etched into the metal, swirling designs that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Finding an entry point proved easier than expected. A jagged tear in the hull, likely from whatever catastrophe had disabled the ship, provided access to the interior. Peter activated his suit lights and stepped inside. Emergency illumination flickered weakly along the corridors, casting eerie shadows across what appeared to be hieroglyphic symbols embossed on the walls. The internal architecture defied conventional spaceship design. Passages curved at impossible angles. Ceiling heights varied dramatically, and doorways appeared to lead nowhere. Following the biological signal through the labyrinthine interior, Peter had to occasionally cut through collapsed bulkheads. The deeper he ventured, the stronger the strange feeling in his chest grew, a pulling sensation, as though something was calling to him specifically. After nearly an hour of navigation through the deteriorating vessel, he entered what appeared to be a central chamber. The room was circular, with a domed ceiling covered in the same shifting patterns as the exterior. In the center lay the source of the biological signal. It resembled an enormous wolf. Its body stretched nearly 3 meters in length. Silver-gray fur covered its emaciated frame, and its eyes were closed, chest barely rising with each shallow breath. Despite its alien nature, The creature projected an unmistakable aura of nobility, even in its weakened state. Peter approached cautiously, scanning the animal with his suit sensors. The readings were confusing. Energy signatures unlike anything he'd encountered. Cellular structures that seemed to fluctuate between different states. One thing was clear. The creature was starving to death. He knelt beside the wolf-like being, setting down his emergency kit. Years of isolation had dulled his empathy, but something about this magnificent creature's suffering pierced through his emotional armor. Without fully understanding why, Peter removed his glove and reached out, placing his hand gently on the animal's neck. At his touch, the wolf's eyes snapped open, revealing irises of deep indigo, flecked with points of light that resembled distant stars. Their gazes locked, and Peter felt a jolt of connection so profound it nearly knocked him backward. The creature's eyes held intelligence, awareness, and unmistakable gratitude. "You need food," Peter whispered, reaching for his limited rations. He carried emergency nutrient paste, flavorless, but designed to provide essential sustenance to any carbon-based life form. Opening a packet, he hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The wolf creature weakly raised its head, sniffing at the offered paste. After a moment's hesitation, it began to consume the food directly from Peter's hand. As it ate, Peter felt a strange tingling sensation where their bodies connected, as though an electrical current flowed between them. He emptied 5 nutrient packs before the creature seemed satisfied. With each pack consumed, the wolf's eyes grew brighter, and its breathing steadied. When the final packet was gone, Peter realized the patterns on the ship's walls were beginning to illuminate, responding to some energy emanating from the creature. The silver-gray fur began to shimmer with an inner light, patterns matching those on the walls pulsing across the wolf's body. Peter stepped back as the light intensified, engulfing the entire chamber in brilliant violet-blue radiance. When the light subsided, the wolf was gone. In its place stood a woman, tall and lithe, with silver hair that cascaded down her back like a metallic waterfall. Her eyes remained the same, deep indigo with starlight flecks, and her graceful, predatory form suggested both power and agility. She wore what appeared to be a form-fitting bodysuit, composed of the same shifting material as the ship's walls. "You saved me," she said, her voice melodic yet carrying an otherworldly resonance. "My name is Rhea. I am Valeth." Peter stared, momentarily speechless. "I'm Peter," he finally managed. "What happened to you?" "This is my true form," Rhea explained, gesturing to herself. "What you found was my survival state. When we Valeth are near death, we revert to our primal form to conserve energy." She approached him, moving with fluid grace. "You gave me sustenance when I was moments from death. For that, I owe you a life debt." "You don't owe me anything," Peter replied automatically. "Anyone would have—" "No," Rhea interrupted. "Not anyone. Most humans fear difference. Most would have reported the signal or destroyed my vessel." Her eyes studied him intently. "You are unusual, Peter. You felt the call, didn't you? The pull toward me?" Before Peter could respond, an alarm blared from his suit communicator. "Proximity alert," his ship's AI announced. 3 Dominion patrol vessels approaching. Estimated arrival, 12 minutes. Rhea's expression hardened. "The Dominion must have detected our bonding energy. We need to leave immediately." "Bonding energy? What are you talking about?" Peter asked, confused, but already moving toward the exit. Whatever was happening, the mention of Dominion forces was enough to spur immediate action. The militaristic empire controlled vast sectors of space, and their approach meant trouble. "When you touched me, when you saved me, a connection formed between us," Rhea explained as they navigated through the collapsing corridors. "It's a rare symbiosis between human and Valeth. My people are shapeshifters, the last of an ancient race. The Dominion hunts us to extinction. They reached Peter's ship and sealed the airlock behind them. As Peter rushed to the cockpit, Rhea followed, studying the control layout with rapid comprehension. "Your navigational system is primitive but functional," she commented, sliding into the co-pilot seat. "We need to reach the asteroid field in Sector 87C. The radiation will mask our energy signature." "That field is a death trap," Peter protested, initiating the engine startup sequence. "The movement patterns are too unpredictable." Rhea placed her hand over his on the control panel. Instantly, Peter felt a surge of energy flow through his body. His vision sharpened dramatically, colors intensifying as though a filter had been removed from his eyes. Sounds became clearer, and he could suddenly perceive minute vibrations in the ship's hull. "What did you do to me?" he gasped. "The bond enhances your human senses," Rhea explained. "You can now see and react as I do. It will help us navigate the field." The docking clamps disengaged with a metallic clank, and Peter's ship pulled away from the derelict just as the first Dominion vessel appeared on the long-range scanners. The patrol ships were Mantis class, heavily armed and significantly faster than his salvage vessel. "Full power to engines," Peter commanded, pushing the thrusters beyond safety parameters. The ship groaned in protest but accelerated toward the distant asteroid field. The pursuing Dominion vessels gained quickly, their sleek black hulls designed for both speed and intimidation. The lead ship fired a warning shot that passed just meters from Peter's port side. "They're ordering us to halt," the AI reported. "Ignore," Peter responded, hands flying across the controls. With his enhanced senses, he found himself anticipating system responses before they occurred, making micro-adjustments that squeezed impossible performance from the aging engines. Rhea closed her eyes. Her fingers splayed against the console. "I'm connecting to your ship's systems through our bond," she murmured. "There's Valeth knowledge embedded in my consciousness that can help." Suddenly, new display overlays appeared on Peter's screens. Trajectories and navigational pathways he'd never seen before. As they entered the outer boundary of the asteroid field, he instinctively followed these new guidance systems, weaving the ship through gaps that appeared impossibly narrow. Behind them, the Dominion vessels attempted to follow. The first patrol ship miscalculated a trajectory and collided with a massive, spinning asteroid. The explosion briefly illuminated the field, debris pelting the remaining pursuers. "Two remaining," Peter noted, his enhanced vision tracking their movements despite the interference. The asteroid field grew denser, massive rocks tumbling in chaotic patterns. Yet, with Rhea's guidance and his enhanced perception, Peter navigated with supernatural precision. The pursuing ships fell further behind, unwilling to match his reckless course. "They're breaking off pursuit," Rhea announced after several tense minutes. "But they'll report our position. We need to reach competitive space, outside Dominion jurisdiction." Peter nodded, adjusting their course toward the border of the neighboring freeholds. "That's a 3-day journey at maximum speed. We'll need to conserve fuel and—" A blinding flash cut him off as their ship violently lurched sideways. Warning alarms blared throughout the cockpit. "Direct hit to our port engine," the AI reported. "Critical damage, propulsion at 43% capacity." Peter swore as he stabilized their trajectory. On the scanner, a massive Dominion warship had appeared, its signature dwarfing the patrol vessels. The Dreadnought-class vessel had fired from outside their detection range. "We can't outrun that," Peter said grimly. Rhea's expression turned resolute. "There's another option, but it's risky. That warship, it's the Dominion flagship Eternal Vigilance. If we surrender now, they'll take us aboard rather than destroying us." "Surrender? That's your plan?" Peter looked at her in disbelief. "Trust me," Rhea replied, her starlit eyes intense. "There are others aboard that ship, people who can help us. The bond between us is stronger than you realize." Before Peter could protest further, another shot from the Dreadnought disabled their remaining engine. As the ship drifted helplessly, Rhea took his hand. The contact sent another surge of energy between them. And in that moment, Peter felt her certainty, her absolute conviction that this apparent defeat was necessary. "Attention, unidentified vessel," a cold voice announced over their communication system. "You are harboring a biological threat to Dominion security. Prepare to be boarded." Peter looked at Rhea, who nodded slightly. "We surrender," he responded, his enhanced senses detecting subtle shifts in Rhea's posture that suggested preparation rather than resignation. Tractor beams locked onto their disabled vessel, pulling them toward the massive hangar bay of the Dominion flagship. As they were drawn inexorably into the belly of the warship, Peter felt an unfamiliar emotion stir within him. Not the fear or anger he might have expected, but something closer to anticipation. Whatever Rhea had planned, whatever this bond between them truly meant, they were about to find out. The eternal vigilance engulfed their small ship like a predator, swallowing prey. Armored soldiers surrounded the vessel as soon as it settled onto the hangar deck, weapons trained on the airlock. When Peter and Rhea emerged with hands raised, they were immediately separated and restrained. "Specimen secured," announced the squad leader, eyeing Rhea with clinical detachment. "Take the human to Interrogation Bay 3. The Valeth goes directly to the Admiral." Peter watched helplessly as Rhea was led away. Through their bond, he sensed not fear, but focused concentration from her, as though she were gathering her strength for something imminent. The soldiers escorting him seemed unaware of the invisible connection between the prisoners. The interrogation chamber was sterile and white, with a single metal chair bolted to the floor. Peter was secured to it with electromagnetic restraints that hummed against his wrists. The door slid open to reveal a tall, gaunt man in an immaculate Dominion uniform adorned with the insignia of a third admiral. "I am Admiral Corrin," the man announced without preamble. "And you, Peter Kessler, are a most interesting find." Peter kept his expression neutral. "I'm just a salvage operator. The woman was injured. I helped her." Corrin's thin lips curved into a smile devoid of warmth. "A simple salvage operator who overrode protocols to investigate an unknown signal, who managed to navigate the Callisto asteroid field with 98% precision, who bonded with a Valeth." He circled the chair slowly. "No, you are far more than that." "What do you want from me?" Peter demanded. "Want? I already have what I want." Corrin stopped directly before him. "The last piece of a project decades in the making. You see, Peter, you were not born. You were designed." A holographic display activated, showing images of two people in laboratory attire. Dr. Marcus Kessler and Dr. Elaine Kessler, brilliant geneticists, recruited to create human vessels capable of bonding with Valeth energy signatures. Your parents. Peter stared at the faces. A man with his same jawline. A woman with his exact eye color. "My parents died in a transport accident when I was 3. "No," Corrin replied coldly. "They died because they refused to complete the final phase of your programming. They created you. But when they understood our purpose, to use bonded humans to track and eliminate all remaining Valeth, they attempted to sabotage the project. Their resistance necessitated their termination." The revelation hit Peter like a physical blow. "You're lying!" "Your enhanced senses tell you otherwise," Corrin observed. "Your genetic structure was specifically engineered to create a human capable of forming symbiotic bonds with Valeth energy patterns. When activated, this bond allows us to trace connections to other Valeth hiding throughout the galaxy." Peter suddenly understood the Admiral's satisfaction. "You want to use me to find them all?" "Precisely. Each bonded pair creates a unique energy signature that resonates with others of their kind. The Valeth female you rescued has already provided valuable data. We've located 3 previously unknown enclaves." "Why?" Peter asked, struggling against his restraints. "Why hunt them at all?" Corrin's expression hardened. "The Valeth represent imperfection, a species of shapeshifters who refuse standardization and control. Their chaotic nature threatens the order Emperor Vex has established. Their genetic adaptability makes them impossible to regulate. He leaned closer. In a perfect galaxy, there is no place for such unpredictability. A distant explosion suddenly rocked the ship, causing Corrin to stumble. The lights flickered momentarily before emergency systems engaged. "What was that?" the Admiral demanded, activating his communication implant. Static answered him. Peter felt a surge of energy through his bond with Rhea, triumph mixed with urgent purpose. Something was happening elsewhere on the ship, something connected to her plan. Corrin's implant sparked violently against his temple, causing him to cry out in pain. He clawed at the device as it malfunctioned, sending erratic signals into his neural pathways. Peter felt his restraints suddenly deactivate. Looking up, he saw a tall, hooded figure in the doorway, a being with silver-white skin and eyes like liquid mercury. "Quickly," the figure urged in a melodic voice. "The uprising has begun." "Who are you?" Peter asked, rising from the chair as Corrin collapsed to the floor, still struggling with his malfunctioning implant. "Seraphine, Elder of the Valeth," the figure replied. "And like you, I am bonded to a human. We have been waiting for this moment, for you and Rhea, for many cycles." In the corridor outside, chaos reigned. Dominion soldiers fought against what appeared to be other crew members. But Peter's enhanced senses detected the subtle differences. These weren't ordinary humans, but other bonded pairs like himself and Rhea. "How many of you are there?" he asked, as Seraphine led him through the battle. 73 pairs aboard this vessel alone," the Elder replied. "We have infiltrated the Dominion for years, preparing for the moment when a bond of sufficient strength would emerge to disrupt their neural network." They rounded a corner to find Rhea engaged in combat with 3 guards. Her movements were fluid and lethal, her body occasionally shifting partially into her wolf form as she fought. When she saw Peter, her face lit with fierce joy. "The bond worked," she called out, dispatching the final guard with a precise strike. "Your connection to me allowed you to disrupt Corrin's implant." "I didn't do anything," Peter protested as they continued moving through the ship. "You did," Seraphine explained. "The bonding process unlocked latent abilities in your engineered DNA. You're projecting disruption fields that interfere with Dominion technology." They reached a secondary hangar bay, where dozens of other bonded pairs were boarding escape vessels. Human and Valeth moved in perfect synchronization, their actions complementing one another with supernatural precision. "The flagship will self-destruct in 14 minutes, announced a tall human male, standing beside a wolf-like Valeth. "All pairs must evacuate immediately." "Jake, Zara," Seraphine acknowledged the pair. "Is the path to the resistance base secured?" "Affirmative," Jake responded. "But we've lost Torres and Kale in the engine room assault." Peter felt a pang of grief that wasn't his own, Rhea's emotions flowing through their bond. "They were your friends," he realized. Rhea nodded grimly. "They've been fighting this war much longer than I have. Their sacrifice will be honored." As they boarded one of the smaller vessels, Peter's enhanced vision caught movement at the hangar entrance. Admiral Corrin had recovered enough to pursue them, blood streaming from where he'd torn the implant from his own flesh. "You cannot escape," he shouted, raising a pulse weapon. "The Dominion spans galaxies. There is nowhere you can hide." Peter felt energy surge through his body. Directed, focused power that seemed to originate from both himself and Rhea simultaneously. Without conscious thought, he extended his hand toward Corrin's weapon. The Admiral pulled the trigger, but instead of firing, the weapon overloaded in his hands, the feedback knocking him unconscious. "We need to go," Rhea urged, pulling Peter into the ship. As their vessel and dozens of others launched from the dying flagship, Peter watched the massive warship growing smaller behind them. When it finally detonated in a spectacular eruption of energy, he felt no satisfaction, only a somber acknowledgement of the lives lost and the irreversible step he'd taken away from his former existence. "Where are we going?" he asked, as their ship joined a formation, heading toward the outer reaches of the system. "To the one place the Dominion fears to follow," Rhea answered. "The Black Hollow, a collapsed star that serves as our resistance headquarters." Peter studied her face in the dim light of the cockpit. "You knew this would happen when I found you, didn't you? This wasn't coincidence." Rhea met his gaze steadily. "Your ship was constructed by resistance allies. Your salvage routes were subtly influenced. We needed someone with your genetic makeup, someone who could form a powerful enough bond to disrupt Dominion technology." "So I was manipulated," Peter said flatly. "Guided," Seraphine corrected from behind them. "But the choice to save Rhea was entirely yours. No one forced your compassion, Peter Kessler. That was your humanity overriding your programming." The revelation should have angered him, learning that his entire life had been shaped by forces beyond his control. Yet strangely, Peter felt something closer to relief. The connection he shared with Rhea felt more real, more vital than anything in his years of isolated existence. Their small fleet traveled for 3 days, taking circuitous routes to avoid Dominion detection. They finally approached what appeared to be an empty region of space, distinguished only by the absence of stars in a perfect circle, the event horizon of the collapsed star. "How do we survive inside a black hole?" Peter asked as they approached the darkness. "It's not a true singularity," Rhea explained. "The star collapsed but stabilized at a point just before becoming a black hole. The gravitational distortion creates a perfect shield against detection while allowing controlled entry." Their vessel crossed the threshold, momentarily compressing as space-time warped around them. When they emerged on the other side, Peter gasped at the sight. Within the hollow core of the collapsed star existed an entire hidden world. Structures floated in careful orbital patterns, some clearly of human design, others bearing the distinctive crystalline metallic architecture of Valeth vessels. At the center floated a massive space station constructed from what appeared to be a fusion of both technologies. "Welcome to Sanctuary," Seraphine announced, "the last free enclave of the Valeth people and their human partners." As they docked with the central station, Peter observed dozens of other bonded pairs moving throughout the facility. Humans and Valeth worked together with the same synchronized efficiency he'd witnessed during the escape, their movements suggesting long-established connections. "How long has this resistance existed?" he asked as they disembarked. "Since the first purge, 27 years ago," Rhea answered, "when Emperor Vex declared the Valeth a genetic aberration that threatened Dominion purity. They were led to a circular chamber where approximately 40 pairs had gathered, humans of various ages and appearances standing alongside their Valeth partners. At the center stood a holographic display showing detailed schematics of what appeared to be a massive communication array. "The Nexus Gateway," Seraphine explained, gesturing toward the display. "The central hub of all Dominion communication. With your ability to disrupt their technology, we finally have a chance to strike at the heart of their empire." Peter studied the schematic. "You want to disable their communications?" Jake stepped forward, his Valeth partner, Zara, at his side. "More than that, we want to lure Emperor Vex himself to the facility." "The Emperor never leaves the Imperial Sanctum," Peter objected. "Everyone knows that." "He will for this," Zara replied, her silver eyes gleaming. "We've planted intelligence suggesting a revolutionary upgrade to the Nexus system, one that would allow instant tracking of any Valeth energy signature anywhere in the galaxy. Such technology would mean the final extinction of our people," Seraphine added. "Vex's obsession with perfection and control will compel him to personally oversee the installation." Rhea took Peter's hand, sending a wave of determination through their bond. "When he arrives, we will be waiting. With your ability to disrupt their technology and the combined strength of all bonded pairs, we can capture him and end the genocide." Peter looked around at the assembled faces. Humans, and Valeth united by bonds, similar to his own, all risking everything for this desperate plan. Despite his lingering resentment at being manipulated, he couldn't deny the rightness of their cause. "When do we leave?" he asked. The assault on the Nexus Gateway began 3 weeks later. Peter spent the intervening time training with Rhea, learning to control and direct the disruptive energy generated by their bond. Each day, their connection grew stronger, allowing them to share not just sensations but thoughts, operating with increasingly perfect synchronization. The Resistance fleet approached the Nexus station using captured Dominion identification codes. The massive structure orbited a barren moon in a remote system, its importance disguised by its unremarkable appearance. Only its heavy defensive grid hinted at the facility's critical nature. "Approaching final checkpoint," Jake announced from the command vessel. "All bonded pairs, prepare for Phase 1. Peter and Rhea stood ready in their infiltration craft, a modified stealth vessel designed to dock undetected with the station's maintenance ports. 20 other similar craft surrounded them, each carrying a bonded pair with specific mission objectives. "Identification codes accepted," came the confirmation. "Proceed to Docking Bay 7 for security verification." As the fleet approached, Peter activated his disruptive field, targeting the station's external sensor array. Through their bond, Rhea amplified his ability, extending its range to encompass the entire approach vector. "Sensors offline," reported one of the Resistance operators. "They're switching to manual visual confirmation." "Maintain approach velocity," Seraphine ordered. "All infiltration teams, launch now." Peter felt the familiar lurch as their small craft detached from the main vessel. Around them, the other infiltration teams did the same, each veering toward different access points around the massive station. "Remember, we need to disable the defense grid before the main fleet arrives," Rhea reminded him as she piloted their vessel toward a maintenance airlock. "The Emperor's shuttle is scheduled to dock in 37 minutes. They attached to the station with minimal difficulty, the security systems already compromised by Peter's disruption field. As they cut through the airlock, Peter felt a strange sense of destiny, as though his entire life had been building toward this moment. Inside, the Nexus station hummed with activity. Maintenance crews and security personnel moved through the pristine corridors, unaware of the infiltration taking place throughout the facility. Peter and Rhea moved with practiced stealth, their bond allowing them to sense approaching danger before it appeared. "Primary control nexus is 3 levels down," Rhea whispered, consulting the holographic map projected from her wrist device. "We need to reach the central processor core." They encountered the first resistance at a security checkpoint. 2 guards stood before a sealed doorway, their implants connecting them directly to the station's surveillance system. "I can't disrupt their implants without alerting the entire security network," Peter murmured. "We don't need to," Rhea replied, her body beginning to shimmer with the now familiar energy of transformation. Before the guards could react, she shifted partially into her wolf form, just enough to enhance her speed and strength while maintaining her humanoid appearance. In a blur of motion, she incapacitated both guards without giving them time to trigger alarms. "Impressive," Peter commented as he dragged the unconscious men into a nearby storage compartment. "You haven't seen anything yet," Rhea replied with a fierce grin that displayed slightly elongated canines. They continued downward, occasionally encountering resistance, but managing to avoid raising general alarms. Through their bond, Peter sensed the progress of the other teams, some encountering heavier opposition, others moving smoothly toward their objectives. When they finally reached the central processor core, they found it already secured by Jake and Zara, who had arrived minutes earlier. "Defense grid control accessed," Jake reported, his fingers flying across the control interface. "Ready for system-wide disruption on your mark." Peter stepped forward, placing his hands on the main control panel. He felt Rhea's presence merge more completely with his own, their energies aligning with perfect resonance. Through their enhanced connection, He could sense the vast network of the Nexus system, millions of interconnected nodes spanning the Dominion's territory. "Now," he whispered, releasing a precisely calibrated wave of disruptive energy into the system. Throughout the station, screens flickered and security systems faltered. The defense grid powered down, leaving the Nexus vulnerable to the approaching resistance fleet. "Phase 1 complete," Seraphine's voice announced through their communication devices. "Emperor Vex's shuttle has adjusted course and will dock in 15 minutes. All teams converge on the central reception chamber." As they made their way toward the designated location, alarms finally began to sound throughout the station. Their infiltration had been discovered, but too late to prevent the defense grid's deactivation. "Dominion security forces are mobilizing," Jake reported, as they moved through increasingly chaotic corridors. "We're looking at approximately 300 armed personnel between us and the reception chamber." "We don't need to fight them all," Rhea replied. "Just create enough confusion to keep them occupied until Vex arrives." The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of controlled chaos. The bonded pairs spread throughout the station, using their unique abilities to disable systems, redirect security forces, and create diversions. Peter and Rhea fought their way to the reception chamber, their movements so perfectly synchronized that they functioned as a single entity. When they finally reached the massive doors of the reception chamber, they found Seraphine already there with several other elders. "The Emperor's shuttle is docking now," the elder announced. "Are you prepared for what comes next?" Peter nodded grimly. According to their intelligence, Emperor Vex would be accompanied by his personal guard, genetically enhanced soldiers with military-grade implants. Even with his disruption ability, neutralizing them would be challenging. "Remember," Seraphine cautioned, "Vex must be taken alive. His capture is the only leverage we have against the full might of the Dominion." The massive doors slid open, revealing the opulent reception chamber beyond. Designed to impress visiting dignitaries, the space featured soaring ceilings, ornate decorations, and a direct view of the stars through a massive, transparent dome. They took positions around the chamber, concealing themselves behind columns and furniture. Peter and Rhea remained closest to the main entrance, their bond humming with anticipation. When Emperor Vex finally entered, Peter was momentarily struck by the man's ordinary appearance. Of medium height and build, with close-cropped gray hair and unremarkable features, Vex seemed more like a bureaucrat than the architect of genocide. Only his eyes, cold and calculating, hinted at the ruthlessness that had built an empire on the bones of imperfect species. "Status report," Vex demanded of the station commander, who accompanied him. "Where is this breakthrough technology I was promised?" Before the commander could respond, Seraphine stepped from concealment. "There is no breakthrough, Emperor, only justice." Vex's guards immediately moved to protect him, weapons drawn. But as they raised their guns, Peter released a massive disruption wave, focusing specifically on their neural implants. The guards collapsed, their enhanced bodies betrayed by the very technology meant to make them superior. Vex himself remained standing, his expression changing from shock to calculating assessment as he observed the Valith and humans surrounding him. "Fascinating," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. "The bonded pairs. I've studied the reports, of course, but seeing it in person..." He focused on Peter. "You must be the Kessler specimen. Your parents would be disappointed to see their work used against the Dominion." "My parents died trying to prevent you from using me as a weapon," Peter replied, advancing with Rhea at his side. "They understood what you refused to accept. That diversity strengthens us all." Vex smiled thinly. "A convenient philosophy for inferior species. Perfect order requires perfect uniformity. Young man, the Valith, with their chaotic nature and unpredictable genetics, threaten everything we've built." "What you've built is a prison," Rhea countered. "A sterile empire that sacrifices life's wonder for control." The Emperor's hand moved subtly toward a concealed weapon. But Peter sensed the movement through his enhanced perception. Before Vex could draw, Peter and Rhea moved in perfect tandem, she shifting partially to increase her speed, he disrupting the weapon's firing mechanism. In seconds, they had disarmed and restrained the Emperor. "Impossible!" Vex hissed, struggling against their hold. "No," Peter replied. "Inevitable. You created me to hunt them, but instead, I became the key to their salvation, and perhaps your redemption." As they secured the Emperor, reports flooded in from throughout the station and beyond. With the Nexus Gateway under Resistance control, the truth of the Dominion's genocide was being broadcast across all communication channels. Images of Valeth camps, documentation of atrocities, and testimony from survivors reached every corner of the Empire. "It's done," Seraphine announced. "The fleet reports Dominion forces in disarray. Without central command, they're unable to coordinate a response." In the days that followed, the fragile empire Vex had built began to fracture. Regional governors, long held in check by the Emperor's iron control, declared independence or turned against one another. Without Vex's fanatical leadership, the genocide campaign lost its driving force. The Resistance used the Emperor as leverage to secure the release of thousands of Valeth prisoners from camps throughout Dominion space. Each rescue mission was led by bonded pairs, their unique abilities allowing them to overcome security systems designed specifically to contain Valeth energy signatures. 2 months after the Nexus operation, Peter stood with Rhea on an observation platform overlooking the vast interior of Sanctuary. Below them, newly rescued Valeth reunited with long-separated family members, their joyous transformations sending cascades of light throughout the Enclave. "What happens now?" Peter asked, watching a young Valeth child shift playfully between forms as human children laughed in delight. "The Dominion is fragmenting, but there are still those who share Vex's beliefs." Rhea took his hand, their bond flowing warm and strong between them. "Now, we build something new. Not a Valeth society or a human one, but something that embraces the strength of both." "A symbiosis," Peter suggested, "like what we have." "Exactly." She turned to face him fully, her starlit eyes reflecting the lights of the celebration below. "What was meant to be a weapon became something beautiful instead. That's the future I see for all of us." Peter felt the truth of her words through their connection. What had begun in a derelict ship with a starving cosmic wolf had transformed into something neither of them could have imagined. A bond that transcended species. A love born from compassion. And a hope for a future where diversity was celebrated rather than feared. As the collapsed star that sheltered them cast its strange light across the gathering, Peter realized that his lifelong isolation had ended the moment he chose to follow that unusual signal. In saving Rhea, he had found not just purpose, but belonging. A connection that filled the emptiness he hadn't even recognized within himself. "Together," he said simply, the word carrying the weight of promise. "Always," Rhea replied, her hand tightening around his as they turned to face whatever the future might hold. Not as human and Valeth, but as partners in the truest sense, their destinies now inseparably entwined.